Thank you very much, Mark. I'm not going to be very lengthy in my presentation. I have a presentation on Brand Zimbabwe that I did sometime in 2011, which I believe the esteemed audience that I'm just about to engage now can access on the ICD website. I just thought I should come and make a few remarks with regards to where we are as a country. You listened to my director's presentation, which was largely academic. I think he was looking at his audience from an academic perspective. And I will give you just a few snippets, mainly and purely from a political perspective. And I wish to start by saying that colonial UK or Britain, following forays into the continents of the Pacific, Africa, North and South America, identified two pairs of countries each. In the Pacific, the colonial UK identified the pair of Australia and New Zealand. And in Africa, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, they identified the pair of South Africa and Rhodesia then, which is now Zimbabwe. In the Americas, they identified the pair of now the United States and Canada. And these were three pairs of countries that the UK, Britain then, or the Crown, as it was referred to, decided it was going to create home away from home sort of countries where they would go and vacation or on holiday outside the United Kingdom and still feel that they are in the United Kingdom, these three pairs of countries. And as a result, you find that in giving birth to independent America, there was a lot of strife and conflict around that process of giving birth to the United States. In giving birth to South Africa, as far back as the Anglo-Boer War, lots of strife, institutionalized racism, as was exemplified by apartheid South Africa, the incarceration of Nelson Mandela for 27 to 28 years, just the desire to hold on to economies and countries that they had created for themselves as home away from home countries. In the Pacific, the history of Australasia and New Zealand is very well known to us here as academics. And Rhodesia itself was born out of struggle in the first instance until the whites themselves declared UDI to create their own country. But even us as blacks, when we decided to fight for our independence, for our own emancipation, it was a 16-year-old brutal war that gave birth to what we call modern-day Zimbabwe today. So I just want to exemplify that the parting was never smooth. It was never a walk in the park. It was not a wedding party. The parting, is typical of any divorce, was acrimonious to the extent that it created the countries that I've mentioned to you now. But it is in Zimbabwe's case, and the philosophy of total liberation that typifies what our leader is today, President Mugabe, where we have seen the greatest acrimony in trying to separate from our colonial master, the United Kingdom. So it doesn't surprise, therefore, that when you read the modern-day Bible from the book of Exodus, you find the Zimbabwean journey almost typically similar to the book of Exodus in the Bible. With a central character and figure called Moses, we also have our central character and figure called Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, except that the Moses in the Bible never completed the purpose. He never bequeathed the lands to the children of Israel, as in the Bible. Our modern day Moses in Zimbabwe, the contemporary Moses of our generation, has actually succeeded in bequeathing land to us, I'll bet at a very great price, to the contemporary generation. It is our current generation now that is bearing the brunt of that bequeathing of land to the existing generation. Because one, Mugabe himself has never been forgiven for completing that exercise. Nation Zimbabwe itself has also not been forgiven for completing that total liberation of the country. So part of what my director was raising are actually historical issues arising out of the desire to totally deliver independence to the people of Zimbabwe. And there are very few countries in Africa that have a total liberation model where land has actually been bequeathed in its totality to the indigenous citizens of that country. If you go to Australia and New Zealand, which are products of colonial Britain, that exercise has not even started. That's why you have outstanding questions relating to the Aborigines and the Maoris. Those are the indigenous people of that pair of countries. They've never succeeded in making a claim or taking a stake in the land that typifies the two countries in that part of the world. Equally, in South Africa, as I speak to you now, that exercise has not even started. The only hint of it coming has actually crushed the rand. The only hint of a restitution exercise ever visiting the Republic of South Africa has actually seen the rand in the most recent past actually crash from 10 to about 18 rands per US dollar, because now South Africa is beginning to address the contentious questions around sovereignty relating to land and bequeathing land to its citizens. And you see that in the marketplace now affecting the national currency. We went through the same experience as Zimbabwe. We have seen the West, and that's really my message, to a point where our Zim dollar crashed, attracted inflation then in 2008 of up to 240 million%, because we had addressed that contentious question around land. When you address that land, you wake up the bullies of the world, because they will be holding to land. And when you take it away from them, as we did in our typical revolutionary style, the brand itself is immediately besmirched, attacked, and you saw what global mainstream media was doing to the brand then. But the West is over. That is the message that I'm bringing you, because we have walked that journey. Many in an African country who will follow our example will still go through the same brand cycle like we did, of destination attacks, of besmirching of leadership and its people. We'll see the same sort of results and unintended consequences of wanting to address this outstanding matter of total delivery of land to its people, as was done in Exodus by Moses. Even Moses himself suffered tremendously in the 40-year journey through the wilderness in trying to deliver land in its totality to the children of Israel. That journey up to this very day is not complete, as you know very much. The strife in Israel, between Israel and Palestine, it's around land. So when you talk about branding and you discount the aspect of land, when you talk about an economy and you don't address the aspect of land, you have not yet started addressing those two contentious issues. I therefore wish to state here that that West part, which has attendant issues and problems relating to the desire to totally deliver independence, is now a thing in the past in Zimbabwe, because we have delivered that model of land. And it is on the back of that we are now redesigning policies relating to investment, relating to tourism, relating to many, many other issues and aspects of our economy, because the land is now the economy, and the economy is now the land. It is in indigenous hands. But the exercise of delivering it to indigenous hands has never been a walk in the park, and it will never be a walk in the park. So yes, it could be my generation today that appears like it has lost 2 decades of what other countries describe as prosperity. But it was in lieu of liberty. It was in lieu of total delivery of land to the people of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is the only country in Africa, and I speak this with authority, where you find citizens owning real wealth in land that has been restituted. Only country in Africa where we own our own land. You ask my chief executive officer there, he will tell you, yes, I own a farm, 300 hectares. The next one will tell you, yes, I've got a farm, 300 hectares. This one will tell you, yes, I've got a farm, 200 hectares. We have that land now. But it is time to unlock value out of the land. And this is where the branding aspect comes into play. It is time now to close the chapter on the acrimony associated with that journey, that exodus journey that we took as a country. Where are we now? We are sub-Saharan Africa. It's the most peaceful destination. Notwithstanding what I was describing now, in the last 33 years, in the sector that I administer, which is tourism, there's not been a single loss of life of an international tourist. So we have a 33-year safety record on peace and security in the country. It's very important when you look at events in the Middle East, when you look at events in North Africa, peace as a dividend, peace as a product is a very important assumption in a successful tourism product. I raise this because of the topic that has been put up there, creative economies and tourism. Where are we with global tourism? 1.2 billion people today travel, crisscross the world, 1.2 billion. Only in 1950, we had 25 million people traveling. So between 1950, 25 million people, and today, 1.2 billion people. I cannot think of any sector, any creative economy that is the greatest potential to change our lives in the manner that travel has become to economies of the world today. I cannot think of any sector where there's exponential growth to that extent, where statistics relating to travel and exports move from 25 million to 1.2 billion in under 65 years. Today, travel is a 1.2 trillion direct economy and 7 trillion by gross domestic impact. So we are seeking now to position Zimbabwe as a traffic hub and a travel hub for Southern Africa and bring back the glory that I was sharing with you, or that Dr. Mzembi was attempting to recite about the great Zimbabwe experience. Because only in 1998, we had 48 international carriers coming to Zimbabwe. Today, they are down to about 15, and we are now going back to signing up new airline agreements that will bring back traffic into the country. We are doing that on the back of major projects that have been undertaken in the travel sector, including the Victoria Falls, the new Victoria Falls Airport, a game changer, which will be commissioned in a month's time, processing now 2 million visitors, up from 500,000. And it will be within the context of a special economic zone that we have also designated within the destination of the Victoria Falls. So everything will start with the visit, because unless if you visit Zimbabwe, we will continue to come here, 3-4 people, give you a sales pitch about the country, but the greatest revolution of our time will come out of travel, the ability to motivate you to come and enjoy the Zimbabwean experience and take position on the many trade and investment opportunities that are abound in that destination. We claim leadership in terms of mineral endowment as a country in all the 17 strategic minerals that are listed in your minerals handbooks of the world. So it doesn't surprise that Zimbabwe is actually host to 40% of the world's alluvial diamond reserves. We are number 2 in terms of the world's platinum reserves, number 2 in terms of coal reserves in the world, and I'm speaking in just under 5 in terms of gold reserves in the world. The mineral potential of Zimbabwe is no parallel anywhere, but it is not yet unlocked, it is not yet tapped. And herein lies the opportunity that will come with this travel that we are now extending to you, to say, visit Zimbabwe. How are we motivating you? Only last week, we removed visa barriers to African countries, especially those that are in the Southern African Development Community. You no longer require a visa to come to Zimbabwe. But we added an additional 37 countries to the list of countries that can now get visas on arrivals, adding up to 70% of the countries of the world that now can actually get their visas at our ports of entry. So we are doing an exercise in openness to now receive the world to a contented nation that owns its own resources and wants to leverage with them to enter into partnerships with capital, yourselves here in Europe, China, United States. So we are very open for trade, we are very open for investment, but the outstanding question of land, which every country in the future will have to address, as human populations grow and we compete for resources, we have dealt with it in Zimbabwe. We are past and beyond what you may have Googled and researched about the behavior of our currencies. By 2008, yes, I said we were 240 million% in terms of inflation. It was the Zimbabwe dollar. Now we use a basket or a multiple currency system, which includes the United States dollar. It is the only country in Africa which has the US dollar as its anchor currency, within the context of 8 other currencies in a multiple currency basket. That include the rand, the euro, the yuan, or renminbi. All these currencies, we use them in Zimbabwe. We have a unique monetary system that you don't find anywhere else in the world, but it hedges your wealth. So you can come and invest there and not worry about exchange risk because we're on the US dollar currency. As a result, you find that a lot of investors are coming because they are seeing an opportunity to earn real income, not in another currency, but the currency, the choice currency of the world, which is the US dollar. So come to Zimbabwe and enjoy the hospitality that you saw on the destination video, but come to Zimbabwe now even for greater opportunities in trade and investment, because the chief product of our country, the peace dividend, has been secured for the last 33 years, and we continue to cherish it and to guard it jealously. But we now extend a hand of openness and friendship to the world to come and negotiate new deal structures going forward into the future and restore our breadbasket status. So within that context, or the context of the topic presented, I couldn't add more than what my director said. He was trying to reconcile all these issues that I'm sharing with you from a political perspective, that they are now in the past and we have a new destination that is ready for the takeoff. I thank you so much for your patience and for listening to me, and now extend that hand of welcome to the great Zimbabwe. I thank you so much.
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Mzembi.